He was the fourth president. He was born in Virginia, March 16, 1751. He had two sons. The name of his school was Princeton. He was the father of the Constitution. He was the shortest president, 5 feet 4 inches tall. He was a member of the Second Constitutional Congress. He was elected president in 1809. His wife's name was Dolly Madison. She looked like this. He won by a lot of votes. Vice President was George Clinton. In the city of the U.S. Constitution, he was called the father of the Constitution. While president, he admitted Louisiana as the 18th state and Indiana as the 19th. He was elected. He served 2 terms in office. He was a good president because he's the father of the Constitution. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bobby, and my president is George Washington. George Washington was born in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He was born on February 22nd, 1732. His mother, Martha Ball Washington, died when he was 11 years old. His father's name was Augustine. He had a half-brother named Lawrence. George Washington did not go to school. A tutor taught him. One interesting thing about George Washington is that he wore wooden false teeth. He led federal workers to Germantown to escape the yellow fever. He was elected on 1789. His wife's name is Martha Washington. His vice president was John Adams. It was a major win. He added Tennessee and Kentucky to the Union. He also added the Bill of Rights to the Constitution. The Bill of Rights are used for freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion. My president was not assassinated. My president was a great man. I said he was great because he led the army through the thick forest. The most important thing he did is he added the Bill of Rights to the Constitution. Thank you.
My name is Nicole Bethia. My president is on James A. Garfield. James A. Garfield was the last of the presidents to be born in log cabin. He was born November 19th, 1831 in Cleveland, Ohio. His mother, Eliza, said he was the biggest baby she had ever seen in her life. And when James A. Garfield had 4 brothers and sisters, and one of the brothers died, and before James was of 2 years of age, his father, Abram Garfield, died. And so Eliza, Garfield's mother, was left to raise 4 children on the farm, but only 3 of them were able to work because young James was too young to work on the farm. He went to school in the woods in a little red district schoolhouse, and he helped stop slavery and did everything he could to help people. And his wife's name was Lucretta Rudolph, and his vice president's name was Chester A. Arthur. The election was very close. He helped stop slavery and help black people get their rights. He spent 190 days as president and was shot on July 2nd, 1881. He was killed by a pistol and he was shot by Charles Jules widow. James was shot because the assassinator wanted Chester A. Arthur to be president. And I say my president was good because he helped people in every way he could.
My name is Samuel Welch. My president name was Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th president. He was born in 1990. His wife's name was Nanny. His vice president was Nixon. He refused to sign the cannons. He stopped the war between Egypt, France, Britain, and Israel, which would be the Third World War. He was I thought he was fair because he led he stopped one of the he helped us so he helped the ship to get in some by telling them that they would. He made a promise. He said that he would let Egypt borrow some money, and then he said no. So, and because if he said they would blow his ship up. So he said no. And I think he was fair. That's all.
All right.
My name is Crystal Monique Bigwell, and I'm going to do my present. And my book report is on Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States. Thomas Jefferson was born in Virginia, 1743. His father's name was Peter. Peter was very strong. One day Peter pulled down his shed when 3 men could not. Peter died at the age of 49. Thomas Jefferson's mother was Jane. She was warm and friendly and loved to write. Thomas Jefferson had one brother and 6 sisters. One of the sisters died soon after. Thomas Jefferson went to the school of William and Mary, where he learned to be a lawyer. Thomas Jefferson had many talents, such as a farmer, an architect, inventor, and musician. Thomas also had many public careers, such as ambassador, Burgess, Secretary of State, Vice President, and finally President. My president was elected Thomas Jefferson was elected as president in 1801. Thomas Jefferson's wife's name was Martha Waylis. He married her in 1772 on New Year's Day. Martha Waylis died in 1782. Aaron Burr was president for Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson tied his partner Aaron Burr at the 1800 election. The House of Representatives had a vote 36 times before the tie was finally broken. Thomas Jefferson had won. Thomas Jefferson signed the Declaration of Independence. While Thomas Jefferson was president, the U.S. bought a large amount of land, which was called the Louisiana Purchase. Thomas Jefferson sold his books to the U.S. Congress Library in 1815 because the British had burned the library down. My president served 2 terms. Thomas Jefferson served 2 terms while being president. I think my president was fair and good. I think the most important thing my president did was on July 4, 1776, was write the Declaration of Independence, and that is why we have fireworks on July 4th. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Wan. I'm going to do a report on William McKinley. William McKinley was the 25th president, born January 29, 1842. His father worked in an iron factory, and his mother was very attended to church. William started school when he was a young man. He learned best by reading and observing. His hobbies were flying kites, playing with marbles, and he was best at playing with his bows and arrows. His favorite game was Old Sow, and he used to play that a lot. At age 17, McKinley went to Allegheny College, and then one of his sisters and his mother gave him a little money to go, and finally he got sick and had to drop out, so they moved to Poland, Ohio, and so the kids could go to better school. And after college, he got a job as a post office clerk, and he didn't like that job, so he became a teacher. Months later, he became a congressman, and then after that, became governor of the United States of Ohio, and then he finally became president. And while he was in office, a lot of good things he did in office was save the gold standard, and I think my president was a great president because he saved the gold standard and helped American business. Most important thing that he did in office was helped American business. My president was assassinated by Leon, and he shot because he was an anarchist. An anarchist is a person who doesn't believe in law and government. Thank you.
My name is Sean Daniel Marasso, and I would like to tell you a report about Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Abraham Lincoln was born in Kentucky on February 12, 1809. His dad Tom was married to Nancy. His dad Tom was a carpenter and was married to Nancy Hanks Lincoln. Nancy was a pioneer mom and helped Abe and his sister Sarah read from the Bible. Sarah died while in childbirth. Abe had another brother, Thomas, that lived 3 days. Abe went to school at Andy Crawford for 9 months. Abe was known through Illinois as a store clerk, handyman, captain of the Black Hawk War, postmaster, store owner, law student, surveyor, and he was kind, knowledgeable, honest, friendly, and had a whip. He served as a legislator 3 times and a congressman once. His wife's name was he was elected president in 1861. His wife's name was Mary Todd Lincoln. His vice president for his first term was Hannibal Hamlin and Andrew Johnson in his second term. These are the 5 things he accomplished while in office. He delivered the Gettysburg Address on November 19, 1863, at the dedication of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The ceremony honors the Civil War soldiers killed in the Battle of Gettysburg. He wrote the Emancipation Proclamation to stop slavery on January 1st, 1863. He made Thanksgiving Day a permanent regular holiday. He created the Department of Agriculture and established the Homestead Act of 1862. Abe died while in his second term. He was assassinated on April 14, 1865. 1865 by John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth put a gun at the back of his head and shot him because he didn't like that Abe stopped slavery. I think the most important thing, I think Abraham Lincoln was a great man because he was so fair and honest and loved God. I also think that the most important thing he did while in office was to stop slavery.
Very good.
My name is Nicholas Allen Flores, and I'm going to talk about John F. Kennedy. John Kennedy was born in Brooklyn, Massachusetts on May 29, 1917. Joseph Kennedy was his dad. He was a multimillionaire. Rose was his mother, and she had 9 children. Joseph Kennedy Jr. was the firstborn. He died in a plane crash in 1944. John Kennedy was born next. He was sick a lot. He had measles, chickenpox, asthma. Scarlet fever almost killed him at the age of 4. He liked tennis, swimming, and being a sailor. Rosemary was the thirdborn, and the others were Kathleen, Eunice, Patricia, Jean, Edward, and Robert. In 4th through 6th grade, he went to Riverdale Country Day School. In 1930, at the age of 13, he went to Canterbury School in Milford, Connecticut. On January 3rd, 1947, in Washington, D.C., he became congressman. In 1948, he was reelected as congressman. In 1952, he decided to run for Senate. He was running against Henry Lodge. John F. Kennedy had 737 electoral votes, and Henry Lodge had 70 electoral votes. In 1961, he was elected president. He was married to a lady on September 12th, He was married to a lady named Jacqueline and had 2 children. His vice president was Lyndon B. Johnson. He was in office for 1 term. 5 of his accomplishments were helping crops grow better, having ships full of food sent over to the harbors of Asia's and Africa's starving cities, and giving permission for the first astronauts to go to the moon, and building a blockade of ships 500 miles off the coast of Cuba to check the Cuban boats for war weapons. And at Kennedy's suggestion, a direct telephone line was installed between the White House and Kremlin in Moscow. He was a good president. He was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, and he was shot in a rifle. He was shot by a rifle in the head. Lee Harvey Oswald killed him. I think the most important thing he did in office was help the starving nations. Thank you. Oh yeah. Right here, this is the car he was riding in while he was assassinated. And then there's like a guy up in the buildings up in here and shot him in the head with the rifle.